The dirt from my husband's grave was still on my shoes when his daughter, Sarah, walked into my kitchen and slapped a yellow sticky note on my forehead. I froze in shock as she laughed, turning to her husband and saying, "Look, Mark, I found another piece of furniture for the garage sale. This one is old, wrinkled, and definitely past its expiration date." Sarah didn't just want my house, she wanted to humiliate me. She spent 30 years being the golden child, while I worked 2 jobs to pay for her Ivy League education. But the moment David's heart stopped, she turned into a predator. She started walking through my home with a marker, labeling my wedding china, my piano, and even my late mother's jewelry as her property. When I tried to stop her, she pushed me back into a chair and hissed, "Listen closely, Martha. You were just a 10-year distraction in my father's life. You're a squatter, a guest, and guests don't get to keep the silver. You have 48 hours to pack your trash and get out of my house, or I'll have the police drag you out in handcuffs for trespassing." She thought I was a broken widow with no options. She didn't realize I'd been the one managing David's legal firm for a decade. And I was about to show her exactly what happens when you try to evict a woman who knows where the bodies are buried and who actually owns the dirt. The next 48 hours were a living hell. Sarah and Mark didn't even wait for me to pack. They moved into the master bedroom while I was still sleeping, throwing my clothes into garbage bags and leaving them in the hallway. Sarah started hosting remodeling consultations in the living room, talking loudly about tearing down the walls David and I had painted together. Every time I walked into the kitchen, she'd make a comment. "Oh, still here, Martha? I thought I smelled something old and dusty." Her husband, Mark, was even worse. He started taking David's expensive watch collection out of the safe. When I told him those were meant for David's grandsons, he laughed. "Grandsons? You mean the kids from your first marriage? They aren't blood, Martha. They don't get a dime of David's legacy. This watch alone is going to pay for my new boat." I watched them dismantle my life piece by piece. They sold David's vintage Mustang to a local dealer for half its value just to get quick cash. They even threw away my wedding album because it cluttered the aesthetic of the new house. I spent those nights crying in the guest room, but I wasn't just crying. I was waiting. I was waiting for a very specific call from David's old partner, Arthur. The call finally came on Wednesday. Arthur had found the secondary file. You see, David knew Sarah was a snake. He loved her, but he didn't trust her, especially after she married a man like Mark. While Sarah was busy ordering new Italian marble for her kitchen, I was reading a document that changed everything. Sarah thought David died intestate, without a will. She thought that as his only biological child, the law would automatically hand her the keys to his $2 million estate. But David had been one step ahead. 5 years ago, we didn't just get married, we created a family trust. And more importantly, David had made a very interesting investment 10 years ago. He had helped Sarah buy her dream home in the suburbs, the one she currently lives with her kids. Sarah always told everyone she bought it herself, but the truth was, David was the primary owner on the deed to protect the property from Sarah's mounting credit card debts. And as his surviving spouse and sole executor, that house wasn't Sarah's, it was mine. I waited until Saturday morning. Sarah had invited a group of her high society friends over for a brunch to celebrate her new inheritance. The house was full of people sipping mimosas and admiring the furniture that still had Sarah's yellow sticky notes on them. I walked into the room, dressed in my best pearls, holding a silver tray, but it wasn't carrying appetizers. It was carrying a stack of legal papers. "Sarah, honey," I said, my voice echoing through the silent room, "you mentioned earlier that I was past my expiration date. Well, I checked the paperwork, and it turns out your residency in this house and your own house has officially expired."
I handed her the first document. It was a life estate deed for the house we were standing in. It proved I had the right to live there until the day I died. Then I handed her the second paper, an eviction notice for her suburban house. Since you were so eager to sell my things for quick cash, Sarah, I've decided to do the same. I've already accepted an all-cash offer for your house to cover the cost of the Mustang and the jewelry you stole this week. You and Mark have exactly 2 hours to get your things out of my guest wing. And don't worry about your house. The new owners are changing the locks as we speak. The silence in the room was deafening. Her friends looked at her in disgust as the sheriffs I had called walked through the front door. Sarah screamed, she cried, she called me a monster for making her children homeless. But as she was led out, I reminded her of one thing. Sarah, you're the one who taught me about bloodlines, and in this bloodline, we don't tolerate thieves. Now, her lawyers are calling me every hour, begging for a settlement. She says I'm being cruel for taking everything she had, but she was ready to throw me on the street with nothing but a sticky note on my head. So I'm asking you, was I too harsh? Should I have given her a second chance for the sake of the kids? Or did she deserve to lose it all? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I'm reading every single one.